Dobry wieczór. Szanowni Państwo, drodzy goście, koleżanki i koledzy, serdecznie witam na noworocznym spotkaniu Polskiej Izby Spedycji i Logistyki. Robiliśmy ostatnio podsumowanie i okazuje się, że to już jest 18 z rzędu spotkanie organizowane w Warszawie i 15 w tym miejscu w hotelu Polonia. Zawsze o tym samym czasie zmieniają się nasi szanowni goście, prelegenci. Wielu z nas od lat w tym spotkaniu uczestniczy. Ma ono w pewnym sensie trochę nieformalny, integracyjny charakter. Ma też swój urok. Jesteśmy, co tu dużo mówić, jedną z nielicznych imprez, gdzie oprawę artystyczną zapewniają pracownicy Naukowej Szkoły Głównej Handlowej i Politechniki Warszawskiej. W tym roku będzie też niespodzianka. Sięgamy po głębokie rezerwy Rady Spedycji i Logistyki, która również tą część artystyczną nam uzupełni, ale przed tym część formalna. Przechodząc do rzeczy, nie przedłużając wstępu, o Brexicie już wielokrotnie rozmawialiśmy. Swojego czasu wspólnie z kolegami z ZMPD organizowaliśmy przy udziale ambasady angielskiej i pracowników administracji brytyjskiej spotkanie poświęcone Brexitowi. Wielokrotnie na ten temat pisaliśmy, starając się przewidzieć tok wydarzeń. Po ostatnich wyborach wiemy już, że klamka zapadła, choć nie do końca wszystkie elementy są rozstrzygnięte. Chciałbym oddać głos i poprosić o informacje na temat Brexitu i jego konsekwencji dla naszej branży pana Jamesa Hughesa, Ministra-Radcę do spraw ekonomicznych Ambasady Zjednoczonego Królestwa w Warszawie. You are welcome. Floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure to be here with you this afternoon. And unfortunately, I start with an apology, which is that your English, I guarantee, is 10 times, 100 times better than my Polish. And so therefore, I shall be speaking to you this afternoon in English and not in Polish. My level of Polish is developing, not particularly quickly, but I am learning earnestly, and I detected the word Brexit in Polish as well as in English. So there are some words that translate across the different languages, and so hopefully when I come and speak to you again in the future during the remainder of my posting here in Warsaw, hopefully it will be in a more bilingual way. So I apologise for speaking to you in English. But I shall do so, and it's a great pleasure to be here and to join you this afternoon. I arrived in Warsaw in the summer of last year, and I have spent a lot of time in my 5 months here talking to colleagues such as yourselves, partners such as yourselves in your sector and in other related sectors, because of the importance of your sector to us and the importance of your sector to our trading relationship. And you don't need me to tell you some of these statistics, you will know them already, but for us it remains impressive to be able to say that over 1,200 lorries of Polish origin enter the United Kingdom or leave the United Kingdom every single day. 1 in 4 lorries that leaves or enters the United Kingdom that is not British is Polish. And if you were to put all of those lorries together end to end, they would reach 2/3 of the way between Dover and Calais, which gives you some sense as to how important your sector is to our trading relationship. And so I have spent most of my time talking to your sector over the course of the autumn about Brexit. And British diplomats have to speak about Brexit in every single speech we deliver. It is now hardwired into our vernacular. I have spent an awful lot of time speaking to you and your fellow colleagues in your sector and other sectors about Brexit, mostly in the autumn, in preparation for a potential no-deal Brexit. Because, as you will be aware, there was the possibility at the end of October last year that we may have exited the European Union without a deal. And so we did a lot of outreach ahead of the 31st of October to get ready for Brexit. And so I'm here today to talk to you about getting ready for Brexit, but in a slightly different scenario. Because, as you will be aware, a deal was struck between the United Kingdom government and the European Union last autumn. And that deal was put back to the British Parliament for approval, but was not approved in terms of the process to put that withdrawal agreement into domestic legislation. And therefore, the government, the Prime Minister, called a UK parliamentary election. We call it a general election, which took place on the 12th of December last year. And that election returned a Conservative majority government, as you will be aware, under Prime Minister Boris Johnson, with a significant majority in the House of Commons, 80 MPs. And therefore, the Prime Minister, following that election outcome, stressed that his immediate priority on returning into office was to implement that withdrawal agreement that was agreed between the United Kingdom and the European Union by the deadline of the 31st of January. You will be aware that the UK domestic legislation to give effect to our withdrawal from the European Union has now passed the House of Commons, one of the two houses of our Parliament, and we expect the law giving effect to our departure to be signed into law in the UK next week. The European Parliament are also required to ratify the agreement, and we expect them to ratify the agreement later this month. And therefore, the United Kingdom will leave the European Union on the 31st of January. At the point of our departure, we will cease to be members of the European Union. We will have left. Brexit will have been done, to paraphrase the slogan that was being used in the UK before Christmas. And of course, Brexit in the UK sense is a term designed to mean our departure from the European Union. So when we leave the European Union at the end of January, we will have completed Brexit. And at the point at which we leave the European Union on the 31st of January, the implementation period, which was set out in the withdrawal agreement between the UK and the EU, will enter immediately into force. And one of the comments, one of the areas of feedback that we've had from talking to your colleagues and other business stakeholders in the past few weeks is a slight lack of clarity over what Brexit will mean in terms of deal or no deal, and where are we up to in terms of deal versus no deal. Because the withdrawal agreement sets out the terms of an implementation period, the UK and the EU, as part of that implementation period, will provide continuity and certainty. So for the period up until the 31st of December 2020, EU law will generally continue to apply to the United Kingdom as it does now. And what this means is that UK businesses and individuals will be able to continue to access EU markets as they do now, and the same will apply for EU businesses and individuals operating in the United Kingdom. And so, to a greater or lesser extent, you will see no practical change on the 1st of February compared to the 31st of January. The change will be that the United Kingdom will have left the European Union, but because of the implementation period, in practical terms, and how businesses operate, that will continue largely as it does now. The implementation period has been set out in the withdrawal agreement and is a time-limited period, following the point at which the UK leaves the European Union. And this period, as I've just set out, will last until the 31st of December 2020, in effect an 11-month implementation period. So, once the UK has withdrawn from the European Union at midnight on the 31st of January, negotiations will begin quickly on the nature of the new partnership between the United Kingdom and the European Union. The EU are currently considering their position on what that future partnership should look like from their perspective ahead of those negotiations. The European Commission are holding a series of consultations with the member states of the European Union, including, of course, the Polish government, and those consultations are continuing. And we expect the European Union to have an agreed position on the nature of that future relationship from their perspective during the course of February. But the Prime Minister in the UK, Boris Johnson, has made it clear that the UK is ready to start negotiations on the future partnership as soon as possible after the 31st of January. And so we look forward to those negotiations starting as quickly as possible. In terms of what the future partnership should look like, as I've just said, the EU is currently considering their position. And of course, as a key component of the trading relationship between the UK and the EU, you, of course, through your associations, will be making your representations to the Polish government and to other governments in the other member states as part of that consultation process to develop the EU's position. But from the UK's perspective, the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, has been clear that the UK wants a positive new partnership based on free trade and friendly cooperation, our shared history, which doesn't evaporate overnight, our interests and our values. Over the course of the last year, the United Kingdom has been celebrating, and Poland, of course, the United Kingdom and Poland have been celebrating 100 years of the re-establishment of diplomatic relations. And the point that we've been making throughout 2019 is that we are celebrating 100 years of friendship, 100 years of partnership, 100 years of new collaborations in a wide range of fields. And our departure from the European Union does not change that. Those collaborations started well before Poland's accession to the EU. They started well before the UK's accession to the EU. And therefore, we are confident that that partnership, that collaboration will continue after our departure. Because, of course, we're leaving the European Union, but we are not leaving the continent of Europe. And so, what we want to do is to negotiate a future partnership on the basis of, on the basis of being friends and sovereign equals, on the basis of being the strongest of European neighbours and allies. We want to continue to trade and to have strong trade relationships with our European partners. You represent an important and valuable market for us. And the Prime Minister has reiterated that the UK wants a broad free trade agreement covering both goods and services and cooperation in a range of other areas, and for that to be part of the future partnership that is negotiated during the course of this year. The Prime Minister has made references to the Canada-EU FTA, the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, and a number of partners across the European Union are making suggestions about certain precedents that exist as a way forward. But we are clear that we would like a broad agreement, as I say, covering both goods and services and cooperation in other areas. The Prime Minister and the government have also made clear that we will continue to ensure high standards in the UK in areas such as workers' rights, animal welfare, agriculture, and the environment. And in many cases, the UK has been at the forefront of the development of EU policies in these fields. And so our leading roles in setting the agenda in these areas will continue, despite our departure from the European Union. And so we are clear that we will continue to ensure high standards in those areas. The Prime Minister continues to emphasise the importance of the UK and the EU working together more generally, whether that is in tackling climate change. The United Kingdom, during the course of 2020, will take on the presidency of the UN COP process, which, of course, COP24 was held in Katowice, here in Poland. And we will be hosting COP26 in November 2020 in Glasgow. And we look forward to working with our European partners, including Poland, in taking forward ambitious agenda in that area. We'll be working together in countering terrorism, which is a threat, of course, that cuts across national boundaries, in building academic and scientific cooperation, and in redoubling our trading relationship. A number of partners have suggested that the 11 months that we will have in the implementation period to negotiate a future partnership is too short, and that it needs to be a longer implementation period. However, the Prime Minister has been clear that the UK will not extend the implementation period beyond the 31st of December this year. And so, on the basis that we will be leaving on the 31st of January this year, the implementation period will be 11 months, which is a timetable in which we will continue to negotiate, but they need to be completed by the end of this year. The Prime Minister has also made clear that any future partnership between the UK and the EU must not involve any kind of alignment or jurisdiction of the Court of Justice of the European Union. The UK will also maintain control of UK fishing waters and our immigration system. And so there are clear parameters in the UK's position that have already been set out clearly by the Prime Minister and by the government. So during the course of 2020, we look forward to negotiating and agreeing an ambitious future economic and trading partnership with the European Union. And from our perspective, our priority in terms of the logistics sector is on ensuring smooth flow and a smooth trading relationship for all sides. As you will be aware from our work at the end of last year, we put into place a large amount of guidance for your sector and for your colleagues in related sectors on how to get ready for Brexit, how to prepare for Brexit. And we will continue to work with the Polish government and with other member states to work with you and to work with other stakeholders and other businesses to get ready for the end of the implementation period. Once we are clear about the nature of the future economic partnership between the UK and the EU, we will be able to provide further detailed guidance for you as to what this might mean for you in practice in terms of your businesses. But as I say, our priority is ensuring smooth flow and a strong trading relationship through the future economic partnership in goods and in services. And in any case, as you will be aware from our status as an EU member state, there are already rules and regulations that need to be applied when trading in goods and services across the border. And we continue to emphasise the importance to all related sectors of being border ready and to being aware of the requirements in order to trade across the border into the United Kingdom, both in terms of our status as a member state at the moment, but then our status once we have left the European Union. I'm very keen at this point to take questions, because one of the things that we have found during the course of our engagement with your sector and other sectors that are acutely affected by our departure from the EU is that we are able to answer 95% of those questions immediately or very quickly. And quite a lot of the time we have found in our experience of the last few months that quite a lot of the questions come from perhaps not being able to find the right information on the UK government portal or the Polish government portal or through your associations. And so I'm very keen to hear from you as to those questions or areas where further clarity is required. I would at this stage also refer you to the excellent portal that has been established some weeks ago by the Polish government on Brexit. And there is a lot of useful information there about how to manage and how to work following our departure from the European Union. And speaking to Polish officials earlier today, I know that some updates have already been placed governing the terms of the implementation period after our departure from the EU. So it's worth checking that website. But I shall stop giving you the kind of opening pitch. And as I say, I'm very keen to take questions and to hear from you as to what you think and your questions and where you think further information or support or guidance is needed. But for now, thank you very much.